my name is Ellie Benson, and I did my big board presentation on how the effects of past countercultures and their effect they have on the future mainstreams. So, how do I think of my topic? Well, first, I've always been very interested in pop culture, and fashion has always appealed to me. So I started looking at what I was wearing and what my mom wore as a kid, and found some outfits that were very similar, while others were very, very different, and this is kind of where I started. So after this, I started researching, and I merely started with trends that had come and gone throughout history. I looked up recent trends, past runway trends, etc., etc., and this led me to find a specific pattern of how some trends start very unpopular, then over time evolve into something very mainstream. This led me to find that music and music festivals follow the same exact pattern, and this left me with the question of what is causing this evolution. But before I start, I think it's important to define 3 key terms for my paper. The first one being counterculture, which is a group of people within a culture who tend to separate themselves from the norm due to different values, beliefs, ideas, etc. Next, we have mainstream, which are ideas, attitudes, or activities that are regarded as normal or conventional. And lastly, pop culture, which is ideals of humor, charisma, mystery, and love through various forms of art, such as music, fashion, social media, etc. So all of my research led me to find that countercultures of the past 5 decades have evolved continuously into mainstream trends in fashion and music through the commercialization of counterculture. So, the first example of this is music. Music begins as part of the counterculture in one generation, then within the next few decades becomes part of the mainstream pop hits. So one of the first examples of this was rock and roll music, which was started by the United States and United Kingdom artists that were seen as a rebellious genre embraced by the youth. Then this genre kept being embraced as the youth grew older and they became adults, and some of them, obviously becoming businessmen, took this music, commercialized it, and sold it to the mainstreams, making it very, very popular, although losing the original rebellious genre idea behind it. This can also be seen with the artist Bob Dylan and the genre of rap music. This is significant because it demonstrates how quickly voices of resistance become commercialized and sold to the mainstream. Businesses discover that they can profit from these old countercultures, and they turn it into something with less meaning, more product. Some say that commercialization isn't bad though, because it's what the consumer wants. Although this is true, it's important to have meaning behind things, and the consumer doesn't really know what they're buying, but rather they just have the physical thing of what they're buying. And it's important to show the significance of counterculture because it expresses the critiques of mainstream in culture in order for us to grow as a society. So next are music festivals. Music festivals are continuously growing nowadays, and they're predicted to become even bigger than sporting events in the near future. But over time, changes of who goes to them, why people go to them, and what happens to them have changed. They are now popular among the masses. Although the first main music festival that we can account for is Woodstock, which happened in August of 1969. This was to celebrate beliefs and have the counterculture distance themselves from society in order to truly support what they believed in. Then, a few years later, in the 1990s, music festivals re-emerged with Austin City Limits, Bonnaroo, Lollapalooza, Coachella, and many other festivals I'm sure that you all have attended, or at least heard of. But now they're more of a money-making business. They were for people to come, socialize, and listen to their favorite music that they hear on the radio. Yet, people say that the reason for going to music festivals never changed. And this is true from a broad scheme of things, but once you narrow in, you see that this is not true at all. merely because the original intention for music festivals was to distance themselves from society, to celebrate their true beliefs in the music that went along with their beliefs. Now it's more of a huge corporation putting on a large concert for people to come and listen to. The festivals themselves continue to thrive, and the commercialization of these festivals has transformed the counterculture movement into something that can be profitable among the mainstream. Lastly, we have fashion. Fashion changes from generation to generation. Over the past 5 decades, almost every trend has been repeated. But this is not a surprise to you because you guys are the ones wearing these trends, and I'm sure some of you are wearing them right now. The fashion industry has found it easy to use older, edgier trends and reintroduce them to the public as something that can be enjoyed by the masses. Commercialization drowns out the meaning of these trends though as they are reproduced. For example, the army jacket, a staple piece in many of your closets today. But when the army jacket first appeared, it was worn by the counterculture movement in the 60s as an ironic piece to symbolize that they were against war and really believed in peace. As I said, now it's merely just a staple piece that you can wear with almost anything but has an edgy twist. This can also be seen with the grunge outfits, Doc Marten boots, and combat boots. The easiest way for celebrities to really get these trends out there and make sure their commercialization is truly effective is to have celebrities wear these. Celebrities are always looking for a new piece to wear at their next event, and having something that was old and now newly reintroduced is a perfect way for them to do this while their fans follow in their footsteps moments later. Sarah Mower from Vogue magazine tells us that there's an algorithm though for all of these trends and how they re-emerge. All you have to do is take today's date, 2016, and subtract the age of the average young designer who's introducing these trends, 25. So this is the best way for new designers to utilize the past by taking something from a trend when they were really young and never really got to participate in, and make it into their own and use it to its full effect without people remembering or with them finally being able to participate in something they maybe once wanted to. In fashion trends, although the commercialization is maybe good because it provides us with continuous new trends, it drowns out the meaning in everything that we're wearing. A piece that used to have such significance to someone now is merely just a piece in your closet. So now, all of this can help us lead to the future. In the future, now that we know this pattern, we can predict future mainstreams, future countercultures, etc. Future countercultures that have already been predicted are greedbusters, which are people who are angered at and disassociating from the financial industry, and those who want to live through voluntary work, and those who are obsessed with technology. All of these probably make sense to you though, because you can already kind of see them occurring, and being able to notice this pattern and predict what lies ahead can help us make sure we're always moving in a forward momentum society. So now, how have countercultures of the past 5 decades moved into future mainstreams? Easy, through commercialization. All trends resurface eventually as popular ones. People who start these counterculture movements are almost always kids. The youth is predicting our future unknowingly. They're the original source of our mainstream trends. But they're not the ones responsible for this backwards momentum. That lies in our hands. What we must do now is take a step against what is happening and learn from our past. As rock and roll fought against segregation, hippies fought against war and materialism, and the grunge movement challenged the ideals of conformity. Things that we almost support now, and maybe we didn't even know it, as we're wearing these trends without knowing their original intention. The issue is that the meaning behind these counterculture trends are being drowned out in order to make them more appealing to us. Well, our society is losing its ability to critique itself and learn from the messages of the past that these counterculture movements are trying to get across. But now we know where the root of the problem is, so we can start and learn and watch younger generations and see what they're trying to say, so we can move in a forward momentum society. So, how did this all affect me? To say the least, I was shocked. I couldn't believe that America was letting such key aspects of history fade into commercialization. I learned we must be aware, we must stay informed, and pass the message on to others as well as future generations. We have to teach the side of history not being taught. We have to inform people on the counterculture and teach them the dangers of commercialization and what it is doing to us. So for my community outreach project, I really wanted to include all of these ideals of what impacted me, but also incorporate the idea of giving. So to do this, I started a clothing drive. I thought, because trends are always going in and out of style, as we can clearly see, but there's 15% of Americans living in poverty who can't even afford clothes, much less are worried about what's hitting the runway next. So I got in contact with the Baldwin Center, who's a program whose mission is to feed, clothe, educate, empower men, women, and children of all ages in the Pontiac community. So the clothes that I collected would go to them. So the logistics of this project. I got boxes and I put them at places that I had a connection with, such as Dach Shalom Synagogue, C-Home, and Corton Elementary School, the elementary school I attended. So then the goal of my drive was to not only provide people that couldn't afford clothes with clothes, but to teach people about donating and defeating the label. And what I mean by defeating the label is not really just getting rid of labels on clothes and what people are wearing, but rather teaching them that it doesn't matter what you're wearing, if it's mainstream or counterculture, but merely wearing things that you enjoy and wearing things that you support. The perspective and what the trend is trying to say you support. So this is a picture of the box, or of the poster that I put on the boxes, as well as just around my community. And once my project was going, there wasn't much I could do besides encourage people to donate and donate myself, except I was asked to speak by my old 5th grade teacher at Corton Elementary School and talk to the 5th grade class about my project, my paper, what I was doing, how it impacted me, and the importance of giving back. So when I got there, I did all of these things, and I told them about how I needed their help and why I needed their help, because without them, my project would have been nothing. Lastly, I told them the importance of community service, and I told them about the effects of counterculture. I told them that they should learn two sides of things, learn the counterculture perspective and learn the mainstream perspective, because they're both equally crucial for our history and how to learn from them. And I told them about defeating the label and why it's important to wear clothes that aren't necessarily just the mainstream, but things that they enjoy and they support. Although this wasn't initially a part of my plan, I'm so thankful I got to do it because it was one of the most rewarding experiences of my whole community outreach project. So when I got to the pickup 2 weeks later, I went to Corton, I went to Dach Shalom, and I was amazed by both of the boxes were full. I felt like I had really done something and my project was a success. But then I went to Corton, and not only was the box I gave them completely full, but rather they had donated so many boxes of clothes I couldn't even fit them all in my car. I needed someone to come help me put them in my car, or put them in their car as well. It was completely overwhelming, to say the least. When I got there, I also went and talked to the 5th grade class again, just really to say thank you, and thank you with all their help, and they expressed to me that they were really happy they got to do this and they want to continue giving back, which for me was even more of a success because I could really see the impact I was having on people's lives. They also told me that in school they started to learn about more of the counterculture sides. They were learning 2 different perspectives to every story, which made I was having even more of an impact on these kids. They were telling me that their clothes, they wanted to know the meaning behind. They wanted to defeat the label. They didn't care what was hitting the runway. Although they're only in 5th grade, and I know that maybe they won't believe this, but I always know that this might be in the back of their minds from now on. So then when I went to Baldwin, I was so excited because I got to see my whole project go into its final step, which was these people collecting my clothes. I got to go to the clothing closet, as it's called, at the Baldwin Center, and got to help the people who work at Baldwin sort the clothes, but I also got to see people who were collecting the clothes, and it was really just a surreal experience getting to see all of it, and I'm so thankful I got to do it. So these are the kids at Corton, and they were boxing up the clothes, and these are all the clothes in my garage. And so in conclusion, this was quite an experience, and I don't think I would have changed any of it if I had the opportunity. It really changed my perspective of trends, and I learned that history is so crucial for the future, because without it, we're always going to be moving backwards. Youth movements are the ones who are starting these trends, so it's important to notice them and see what they're trying to say. We should notice their trends and notice how they're being portrayed. Also, I've learned that commercialization destroys the meaning of these trends. It drowns out any meaning that they once had. But my clothing drive was a step to stop this. My clothing drive was this drive was to show people getting these clothes, they don't care about the label, they are merely thankful for them, as well as people should truly buy clothes that they believe have significance to them and that they enjoy, but not what's hitting the runway. They need to defeat we should take a step to defeat the mainstream trends of what the mainstream trends bring to the table, which is your wallet and your money merely. And lastly, we should learn from what they represent, and don't let the label of a mainstream product or even a counterculture trend run your wallet. Thank you all for coming and listening to me today. I hope you've learned something.